Welcome to the meeting of the Conservation Commission for Wednesday, October 4th. The time is just after 6 p.m. And we'll start with a roll call of the commissioners. Member Charpentier.
Here.
Member Cook.
Here.
Member Gradwell.
Here.
Member Sargent.
Here.
Member Viteri.
Here.
And Member Villa. And Member Jackson.
Here.
Right, so we do have a quorum present. As the recent amendments to the open meeting law allow, the Conservation Commission will continue to hold meetings remotely. Adequate alternative access to the meetings is provided through the Zoom link. As always, please continue to check the city's calendar and the agendas for each meeting for the updated Zoom link and call-in information.
Okay. Thank you, Chuck. We're going to start off with the administrative briefing. Is there anything further to add? Did you? Yeah, you did the thing. Okay.
Yep. So I guess, as usual, we have several projects that will be continued tonight. I'll read through those so that if anybody's here for those, you can know that you don't need to stay on because they'll be continued to the meeting of October 18th. So those are going to include NOI 0282884 for 284 Atlantic Road, NOI 0282929 for 156 Atlantic Street, NOI 028 no number given for 1618A 20 and 22 Beechcroft Road, NOI 0282850 for 740 Rear Washington Street, NOI 0282955 for 83 Delaware Lane. And 028, no number given yet, 43 Shore Road. So those will be officially do it later. I did have one other item. Devin and I have both been attending the meetings of the 8 Towns in the Great Marsh Committee, which is a local governments committee made up of various conservation staff for the towns around the Great Marsh, and includes Amesbury, Essex, Gloucester, Ipswich, Newburyport, Rockport, Raleigh, and Salisbury. And so it's been a pretty interesting group to kind of see, how folks in different towns local to us are dealing with some of the same issues that we have, and also kind of see what more regional projects are happening. And there's also a lot of information that's given out as far as grant opportunities and that sort of thing, and that's just going to help that as well. So I guess they need us to be officially designated by the commission to be part of this group. So if you guys wanted to officially designate us, we'd appreciate that.
And how do we do that?
I guess you
What
could
kind of a motion could we make?
I guess a motion to designate Devin and I as the representatives of Gloucester on the 8 Towns of the Great Marsh Committee.
Take it away, Linda.
Charpentier moves to appoint Chuck and Devin as the representatives of the Gloucester of the Gloucester team on the what do we call it? The Great Marsh Committee.
Gradwell seconds.
Roll call. Member Charpentier.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Gradwell.
Yes.
Sargent.
As a former member, yes.
Member Viteri.
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes. Okay. Is that it for administrative briefing, Chuck?
That is all I have tonight.
All right, thank you. That was worthwhile. Public comment. This is the part of the meeting that we open to the public for comments on items of Conservation Commission interest that are not on the agenda. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to make such a comment?
We currently have 24 attendees present. I'm not seeing any hands up at this time.
Okay, I'll close the public comment period. We'll move on to minutes review and approval. We have the minutes for September 6th and the minutes for September 20th. Can we take them together? Okay. Linda, would you like to make such a motion?
Sure, Charpentier moves to approve the minutes of September the 6th and September the 20th as amended.
And Gradwell seconds.
Roll call, member Charpentier,
Yes,
Cook,
Yes.
Gradwell,
Yes.
Surgeon,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
member Jackson.
Yes. Okay, next up, we have continued business, starting off with NOI 0282884, 284 Atlantic Road, Stephen Klaus, for construction of a retaining wall and existing yard and removal of a deteriorated fieldstone wall in Coastal Bank, Coastal Beach, and land subject to coastal storm flowage, represented by Garrett M. Tunison of Tunison Environmental Consultants LLC. We are going to continue those to the meeting of October 18th. Linda?
Charpentier moves to continue NOI 0282884 at 284 Atlantic Road to the commission meeting of October 18th.
And Gradwell seconds.
Call, member Charpentier,
Yes,
Cook,
Yes.
Gradwell. Like we lost member Gradwell, member Sargent,
Yes.
member Terry,
Yes.
member Jackson.
Yes. Okay, next up, we have NOI 0282959 at 156 Atlantic Street, estate of Eileen M. Sheehan, for construction of a single-family home, utilities and septic in riverfront area, buffer zone to coastal resource area, and land subject to coastal storm flowage, represented by Benjamin Minix of Eagle Brook Engineering and Survey LLC. This will also be continued to the meeting of October 18th.
and Charpentier moves to continue NOI 0282929 at 156 Atlantic Street to the commission meeting of October 18th.
And Gradwell seconds.
Roll call, member Charpentier,
Yes,
Cook,
Yes.
Gradwell,
Yes.
member Sargent,
Yes.
member Terry,
Yes.
member Jackson.
Yes. Next up, we have NOI 0282931 at 30 Grapevine Road, Rob Cullinane, for addition to single-family home, new garage with living space, relocation of shed, and installation of a pervious driveway in buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands, represented by Rob Cullinane. Do we have Mr. Cullinane in the audience?
You're voting to panelists now.
Can you hear me now, Chuck?
We can
Yes,
hear
we
you.
can.
Okay, hello, good evening, everybody. I'm Rob Cullinane, owner of 30 Grapevine Road. I'm here to speak to the issues that came up from the last meeting when I presented on September 20th. There were a few things that came up that I needed to address, and I've done so with the site plan and some additional information that I provided to the board. Some of that information on the site plan involved new mitigation figures, which were reconfigured. The issue at the time was figuring out what credits, if you will, I would get for mitigating the removal of asphalt from the driveway within the 100-foot buffer zone. So that's been taken care of, and the mitigation area was enlarged to cover that with a net ratio of a 2-to-1 mitigation ratio. So I believe that plan has been accepted, and that's certainly been presented for a while. It's been at the board for a while. In addition to that, I was asked to get my abutting neighbors' approval for some work that's required. And I did go ahead and get that done. And that approval has been presented to both Chuck and Devin. And then in addition to that requirement from the last meeting, I was asked to provide really from the wetlands scientist that I hired to have a buffer zone / wetlands restoration plan put together formally in writing, and that's been done. I believe the board has seen this. Do I need to go through the plan? I certainly can.
I think the board has had a chance to look at it.
Yeah.
If not, they can ask you questions about it.
Okay.
Is there anything else you'd like to say before I open this up to public comment?
Oh, and one additional thing, Chuck had asked for, and I've done that, and I think it's still under review. The requirement of planting wetland seed mix. And I found a company that I thought was on a previous NOI. I just couldn't find the number that did go through the board. It's a company out of Kentucky, but they do say that they have wetlands seed mix specific to the Northeast. And I believe it's been used before in Gloucester. I just couldn't find the NOI. And Devin couldn't find it either, but that's where I found them. And so that seed mix, I think will be sufficient. But again, I think Chuck and Devin have to give me the final okay. On that. And that particular seed would be along the delineation lines for some of the restoration efforts, in addition to the plantings that Leah has put forward on the buffer and wetland restoration report.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
You're
We're
welcome.
going to open this up for public comment, and as you know by now, we are going to go through the public comment and then the commissioner comments, and then let you respond.
Okay.
Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at 30 Grapevine Road?
We currently have 27 attendees and there are no hands up at this time.
Okay, I'll close the public comment period. We'll open it up to commissioner comments.
Member Charpentier?
Chuck?
I just want to say thank you for the additional work that you did and for that report. Very helpful. And I have no other comments.
Member Cook?
Same thing. I know it's been a lot of work trying to get to where we are. So I'd like to thank you for the effort, but I have no comments.
Member Gradwell?
And again, no comments from Gradwell.
Member Sargent?
And I want to thank you for the meaningful changes. And there should be a 2-year monitoring for the mortality of mitigation plantings. Thank you.
Member Viteri?
I am abstaining from this matter.
And Member Jackson?
Yes, I also want to thank you. We've asked a lot, you've put in a lot. And I know it's been a tough road at times. But I think things are looking pretty good at this point. I do want to clarify with you, there will be a 2-year monitoring program for your plans. It's a standard condition, during which time you may be meeting with the agent. And would you be willing to make any adjustments needed during that time?
Yes, I am.
Okay, okay. All right, I wouldn't expect anything major.
Okay.
Okay. Chuck, do you have any additional comments?
I guess the only thing from our end, obviously a lot of the issues we've had here is because a lot of work is happening without approval and, trying to undo things that are done before they're done and approved. I guess with the mitigation area for where the fill has been done, I'd like things to be done kind of a step at a time. So that we can kind of make sure that things are progressing in the right direction in that portion of the project. So kind of starting with the removal of the material and then have us come out and take a look at it. And then we can kind of discuss the plantings and stuff like that, just so there's a bit more of a, we don't get ahead of ourselves in that portion of the project area. I'd like to see that. As far as the seed mix goes, I was able to get the actual genus and species names from the supplier, and they are predominantly, native to New England, if not the East Coast. So I'm okay with that seed mix. I think I would prefer it to not be used necessarily in that mitigation area, and maybe see, what seed bank is still remaining there, and there's some of those native plants that are in that area, some of the ferns and stuff like that.
Mhm.
They're not part of the seed mix, kind of established and see what reestablishes in that area before we talk about scattering a whole bunch of seeds in that area. But you could use that definitely for the other mitigation area outside of that restoration area.
Okay.
Okay, then I think we're ready to move on. We discussed a lot of conditions in previous meetings. And we have some others that we've discussed tonight, the periodic meetings with the agent as you progress from step to step in all of the work on your property, and the 2-year monitoring with periodic checks and adjustments as needed. So I think we're ready to move forward, Linda.
Okay, Charpentier moves to accept or approve NOI 0282931.
Linda, close the hearing first. Close the hearing
Oh,
first.
okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Charpentier moves to close the hearing for NOI 0282931 at 30 Grapevine Road.
And Gradwell seconds.
We'll call Member Charpentier,
Yes,
Yes.
Member Gradwell,
Yes.
Member Sargent,
Yes,
Member Jackson.
Yes. Now go ahead, Linda.
okay, now, Charpentier moves to approve NOI 0282931 at 30 Grapevine Road with the aforementioned conditions of periodic monitoring by the agent during the mitigation work and a 2-year mortality for the mitigation plantings.
And Gradwell seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes,
Member Cook,
Yes.
Member Gradwell,
Yes.
Member Sargent,
yes,
Member Jackson.
Yes. Excellent. You're all set, Mr. Cullinane,
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
as we appreciate your work on this. Okay,
Thank you.
next up we have NOI 028 unassigned DEP number for 16, 18A, 20 and 22 Beechcroft Road, Ronnie Solomon, Joe Messina, Vanessa Cephalo, for connection of 3 adjacent homes to city sewer and land subject to coastal storm flowage and buffer zone to coastal resource area, represented by Stephen Cephalo and Joe Messina. And we are going to continue them to the meeting of October 18th.
Charpentier moves to continue NOI 028 unassigned DEP number for 16, 18A, 20, and 22 Beechcroft Road to the commission meeting of October 18th.
Gradwell seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes,
Cook,
Yes.
Member Gradwell,
Yes.
Member Sargent,
yes,
Member Terry,
Yes,
Member Jackson.
Yes, yes. Okay, next up, we have NOI 0282950 at 160, 158R, and 154A Essex Avenue, Upper Banjo LLC for construction of a road, utilities, drainage, and dam reconstruction, installation of a dock and float and buffer zone bordering vegetated wetlands, and land under a water body and inland bank, represented by Joel Favaza, Seaside Legal Solutions, PC.
For the record,
Mr. Fu-
Commissioner Cook needs to recuse from this.
Okay,
Okay, good evening.
good evening.
As the commission may remember, we were here at a previous meeting. We kind of went over the project itself. The project is primarily a dam reconstruction project, and although that work seems to be the primary focus, it's actually a limited project per the regs. There were additional work looking to be permitted around the construction of a roadway and the construction of stormwater BMPs throughout a cluster development that was recently permitted by the planning board. At the end of the last meeting, we scheduled a site visit. Some of the commissioners were able to attend that recently. We walked the site, looked around at, kind of where the dam work was going to happen, where the BMP work was going to happen. We talked a little bit about the isolated wetland that has the vernal pool on the southern portion of the site. And we also clarified that the BMP number 3, which is the smaller one near the wetland on the south end of the site, is sought to be permitted, including the portions that do cross into the individual lots. I represented kind of in a general way that we were not permitting anything on the individual lots, and what I should have been more specific about was we're not permitting any houses or driveways on the individual lots, but to the degree that BMP number 3 does cross into the limits of lots 17 and 16, we are looking to permit that entire BMP. Another question that was raised at the site visit was regarding the proposed northerly face of the dam, which is now going to be a sloped berm. I think Mr. Viteri was concerned that we had not heard from the neighbor, Miles Schlichty. We confirmed with him that he is in support of this. There are existing easements across the properties, but to be transparent, the existing easements do not cover a wide enough swath of land to carry over to the slope easements or the slope adjustments that are going to take place on Mr. Schlichty's property. However, if you look at the plans you'll see in front of you or that were submitted, there is actually a driveway area being proposed on Mr. Schlichty's land, and that's on the plan because that's part of the negotiation that was ongoing. The applicant, Mr. Schlichty, have a really good relationship, and basically, like I said, hey, I've got to regrade some of your lot. While not there, I can, cut you in some extra driveway area because Mr. Schlichty likes to store his boats in that vicinity. So just to answer that question, the easements that are in place don't actually cover the full extent of the slope alterations being proposed. However, once this is approved, we'll be able to finalize additional easement documentation, and we would certainly accept the condition if the commission wanted to add it to the NOI that nothing can begin until the slope easement is received and recorded. That's kind of a title standard anyway, but if it helps people feel good about the situation, it doesn't matter to us to put that into the order also. Otherwise, I'll leave it to the chair, to the agent to speak to anything else you'd like me to touch upon, but I think the sidewalk went well, and I think it kind of cleared up some of the questions that were lingering, but I'm here to speak more. And I have Bill Manuel, I believe, maybe in the gallery still. He has to run to the Rockport Conservation Commission meeting also, but to the extent he's still here, he's available to speak on this also. So if you have any wetland scientist questions, let's try and ask those first.
Okay. As you know, we'll go through public comments and commissioner comments and then give you and or Mr. Manuel a chance to respond. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to comment on the project at 160, 158R and 154A Essex Avenue?
30 attendees, and there's currently one hand up. We've got Camille Vicenti. Camille, you need to unmute there.
Got it. Can you hear me now? Camille Vicenti, 158 Essex Ave.
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
Great, thank you. So some of these questions might be answered in this follow-up, but I figured I had submitted a letter on September 14th in response to some of the diagrams that the lawyer had showed us on the September 6th meeting. So I just wanted to address some of these concerns from the September 6th meeting. And again, like I said, they might be addressed later on with some of your questions and some of the attorney's responses, but I didn't hear any responses yet as to some of this. So to start, at the September 6th meeting, Attorney Favaza introduced my concerns as concerns of an abutter, despite the fact that her entire backyard is the cleared part of the same forest within about 50 feet of a wetland area. I just wanted to state that this comes across as out of line and certainly not in purview. And I wanted to request the attorney use respect when addressing people's concerns. The issue at hand is not whether my backyard existed long before these man-made wetlands. Rather, it's a public hearing of a neighboring property so I can voice my concerns as to how this project will impact me, my backyard, the city, and its wetlands. These regulations exist to protect wetlands, and I'm concerned that the applicant has neglected to address these regulations, specifically the vernal pool that has been certified prior to this NOI, and thus argue the applicant should resubmit that stormwater report. The letter on September 14th also outlines the concerns for the attorney's rebuttals in that first meeting. I detail how the representative for the project did not use the approved resource delineation for the 100-foot maps he neglected to show the second BMP in the buffer, in the CVP buffer. So not only is there not one, but there are two BMPs in that buffer, and they've only addressed the ones that are on the northern side. There's one on the west side that I believe needs to be addressed. The other thing was in that meeting, the attorney stated, you know, the reality is we have an existing ORAD and it has no vernal pool in it. I just wanted to restate this is not true. The ANRAD public hearing in July of 2019 specifically noted there's clearly a vernal pool, but it's not yet certified. Looking back to the minutes, the agent said, you know, up in the back between the two elevated drumlands in the low pit resource area, isolated vegetative wetland. And the applicant did communicate that he saw frog eggs, and the agent also said that it identified that it is very clearly a vernal pool, even though it's not certificated. Later, this commissioner responded, if it comes back as a vernal pool, do we need to come back at a later date? And the agent thus again responded that the certifying vernal pool takes some time, but it's a reasonable thing for me to be able to pass on to the applicant in advance of the NOI hearing that will not change the area resource delineation. And they can include that in the plan when they go to submit the NOI, that it's been flagged as such and approved as a vernal pool. So, you know, this statement that there was an ORAD with no vernal pool is, you know, clearly not the case. Furthermore, the wetland evaluation from 2011 and 2019 describes that isolated freshwater wetlands as having a vernal pool breeding habitat, and the NHESP had mapped the vernal pool as potential long before it was certified in October of 2021. To address the concerns about the walking path, I had mentioned that. No, I don't think it's a huge issue, especially with pervious paths, but I'm talking about cumulative impact on the proposed project on this vernal wetland, because the current proposed project has yards, a house, an entire upland stormwater that flows through it. I'm merely suggesting ways to make the project better, as a walking path can easily be moved and connected to the city's Fernwood Loop as it runs parallel to the southern part of the applicant's land. I had two other questions in my first one about the beaver lodges, one to where the dam is, and I didn't hear the attorney make any response on that. And then I had also raised a question in the last meeting about raising the water level, how that embankment between my property and the pond will be reinforced. You know, it will potentially raise the water significantly. Some of these rocks have fallen down. Does this put my property at risk? And I would just want to hear some responses to both of those as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to comment?
We currently have 33 attendees, and there are no other hands up at this time.
Okay, I'll close the public comment period. We'll move on to commissioner comments.
Member Charpentier.
Yeah, I'm also concerned about the water and the potential water level rising, and just, do we have the city engineer having approved that part of the project? The design and construction of that?
Okay.
Nothing else.
Member Gredwell.
Comments on that, on the road going in there. Should part of it be pervious? I don't know the answers, but we're gonna have an awful lot of water coming down from those woods when the woods are cleared. Pervious driveway would make sense to me.
Member Sargent.
I'm really concerned about the vernal pool. I don't think any stormwater should be directed in that direction. Road salts, herbicides, and pesticides are lethal to biota, you know, that live in vernal pools. There should be a general prohibition, you know, of those substances anyway for the entire project. There also probably should be a wildlife, you know, study, you know, of that area by the vernal pool to make sure that we don't disrupt that fragile environment. Any dewatering, you know, that needs to be taking place during construction, because there is a ledge. It would have to be adequately treated before being discharged. And the recreational dock, gangway, and float must be constructed with materials that are non-toxic to the aquatic environment. And there should be a prohibition on the use of motorized watercraft within Upper Banjo Pond. There needs to be a summary of the loss and alteration of vegetation within the buffer zones, and I haven't seen that. So that the commission can consider the magnitude of the alterations and the significance of the project site in order to protect the interest of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Gloucester Wetland Ordinances. Thank you.
Member Viteri.
I don't know if this is possible, if you have to go back to the planning board or anything like that, but my question still remains about the 3 lots that are significantly within the buffer zone. It's going to be a future issue when they come before us for development, as they're going to, they're essentially, I'll give you the numbers on them. There's lots 1, 2, and 22 are in the buffer zone. So any future work on those lots is going to have to come before us. So my question is, can there be a reconfiguration of the plan to minimize the extent of those lots that are in the buffer zone? Another question is about the width of the roadway. I believe it's 26 feet wide. I saw in the plans, and that might be not including any sidewalks or anything on there. So I'm wondering, is it possible to narrow that that width at all? I echo the question about a wildlife habitat assessment. I mean, this is a large undeveloped parcel that's connected to other large acreage of conservation land. There's a trustee's property, Ravenswood. There's public watershed lands that are next to it. So there's a big connectivity component between the pond, the forest, and those other conserved lands. So I have a concern about the impact of development on this parcel to wildlife. I do have potential conditions I'd like to see. One would be the no work until the slope easement is recorded. That was mentioned by Mr. Favaza. 2, all pedestrian paths to be unpaved. The kayak path and the nature path are noted on the plan. 3, I'd like to see there be no work, no activity at all in the southwest corner wetland in that buffer zone. That area is part of the watershed, Zone A watershed. I'd actually like to see the plans amended to reflect where the actual watershed boundaries are, and have that area be an absolute no touch zone, no work at all, just to protect potential watershed effects. It was mentioned, I think, during the site visit that it's not an active water supply, but it's still I think part of the watershed, and who knows in the future if that status changes and it becomes a watershed. I don't think we should be doing any work near any water supply areas. Number 4, you mentioned the concrete channel in the new slope area down from the dam. That's going to be removed. That area revegetated as part of the slope. 5, I'd like to see all the open space land be under a conservation restriction, and that be recorded and as part of the whole development. I don't know if that's part of the plans already, but I'd like to see some formal conservation restriction placed on that area. And then the last condition would be, some sort of measure to protect mature trees wherever possible. I understand, of course, if there's going to be a house or a driveway, those trees might have to go. But anything, 24 inches or so at breast height or larger, if that could be, to the greatest extent possible, to have those trees to be preserved, I'd like to see that. Those are my comments.
And Member Jackson.
Okay, in addition to the preceding comments, I do think the stormwater report does need to be looked at again. The original stormwater report was developed prior to the certification of the vernal pool. The NOI came in after the certification of the vernal pool. And therefore, because it is an outstanding resources water, it needs to be adhered to per standard 6 of the stormwater management standards. There are very stringent requirements there, which include a habitat evaluation and to demonstrate that your BMPs meet the performance standards of having no adverse impact on habitat functions of a certified vernal pool. At least 44% TSS must be removed, et cetera. So there are a lot of things that you need to look at with that. Okay, Chuck, we do have additional input.
Nothing much. I did just want to clarify that vernal pools are not something that is approved as part of an ANRAD or under an ORAD. You know, the certification is not done by the commission. So they certify the delineation of the resource areas, but the vernal pool is never anything that would be approved as part of an ANRAD by the commission. So I guess, you know, the argument that because it's not part of the ANRAD or ORAD that's existing has no effect on whether or not it should be considered in the stormwater plan. So I do agree that the commission has the right, and I think it's a good idea to revisit that stormwater plan to include that.
Okay, Mr. Favazza.
If you could please bring Bill Manuel in if he's still out there. He can speak to the question specifically about BMP number 2 as it relates to the vernal pond, and then we can get him out of there and I can respond to the rest.
Yeah, I believe it's BMP 3. That's
Oh, 3, I'm sorry, you're correct. BMP 3 is correct, the small one by the path.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. This is Bill Manuel. I was scribbling furiously there, trying to catch all those comments and questions. I think I did a pretty good job, but basically, our team talked about this outlet to the vernal pool area before the meeting this evening, and there is a way to redirect the outflow, as Commissioner Sargent had suggested, and I think the best thing to do is to revisit that with the engineer and make sure that come up with a way to just redirect that water there. It would be, it has gone through an entire treatment train. By the time it gets to the outlet point, I don't think much water is coming out of that because these basins are designed to capture and infiltrate. So I think whatever water comes out of there is minimal, and it will have attained the required treatment level in the stormwater management standards, but we can certainly redirect that so it doesn't flow in that direction at all. With respect to, there was so many other questions and comments there. I'm just not prepared to try to dissect all of them this evening, and I think a better strategy would be to, Joel, you can discuss what you can, and I think we'll have to regroup and come up with a a good response to all the questions and comments that were raised.
Yeah, I certainly think that's I'm sorry, Madam Chair, but yeah.
That's okay.
I think that's the questions about BMP number 3, the vernal pool. I think we certainly will just respond with a more comprehensive follow-up after tonight. Bill, if there's anything else you want to chime in, please do. If not, I'll just tag back in and let you get to Rockport.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'm done.
So to the degree that there were a few comments that are discussable this evening, the dam redesign has not gone through the city engineer, but the dam redesign is being done by civil engineers in concert with the state oversight agency that handles dams across the Commonwealth. I imagine at some point, the city engineer will become part of this process, probably as it gets closer to an actual permit, but despite the fact they have not been brought in on the city side, does not mean that this has not been looked at by the state agencies that take care of dam work, and the engineer is hired to do dam work as one of their areas of specialty. As for the question that was raised, I think both by Ms. Charpentier and one of the abutters as to stability of the bank, again, this is all going to be monitored as part of the reconstruction itself. So the reconstruction work is going to be is not going to destabilize any of the bank on the eastern side, because the work really doesn't go over to the eastern side. It's more about putting in the cofferdam to the south of the existing dam, dewatering that section, reinforcing and rebuilding the existing dam as is necessary, and then letting it back in. The banks, especially the bank between the neighbor's property and this, is really going to be minimally impacted. And again, as far as the water level itself, the water level is being raised back to a height that would have been maintained historically. The pond has been low for the last several years due to an order from the state to keep it low. So this is not going to be raising up Upper Banjo Pond to a level that's not been historically maintained previously. As to Mr. Grabwell's question about the road coming in, we cannot make it pervious. That would be a violation of the subdivision rules and regulations for road construction standards, and I believe would actually screw up some of the calculations that are in place for the current stormwater management. Again, none of the stormwater on this site, be it coming from the roadway or the proposed house lot, none of it is being sheet flowed anywhere off of these roads. Everything's being captured in either stormwater drains or pushed over into the BMPs directly. So it would actually make the functionality of these systems change fundamentally if all of a sudden there's a section of road where it was expected that water would flow to catch basins, and now all of a sudden it was partially, infiltrating underneath the road itself. There's also a lot of utilities running under these roads, so again, it would just be probably not a possible alteration. And I will segue that into some of Mr. Vitteri's questions. So the short answer is yes, we would have to go back to the planning board to move the road, shrink the road, move the lots. Yes, lots 1, 2, and 22 are in the buffer zone, but again, that does not mean that they're going to fail to meet the performance standards for what these particular buffer zones are against buffer zones to the Upper Banjo Pond. And the performance standards outlined in both the wetland regs and the Gloucester Wetlands Ordinance, we don't seem to be incompatible with the construction of single-family homes as shown in the plan. And again, although they will come back for separate NOIs and separate orders of condition, we don't think it's actually going to be problematic when it comes back before you to look for this. It's not going to be, hopefully it shouldn't be a difficult structure to permit based on the performance standards as we understand them today. As to the narrowing of the road itself, one of the competing interests out here, obviously you're looking to reduce the pavement width if you can. And honestly, the applicant would also, because pavement's expensive to put down. However, we have to make sure from the planning board's perspective and from the fire department's perspective that the fire department's largest apparatus, which is the ladder truck, can get in, get all the way around the loop, get back out without having to stop, back up. And if their car is parked on the side of the road, be able to get by those also. So this roadway width has been engineered to allow for that. And we wouldn't, even if we went back to the planning board, we would probably sent right back out. They said, no, the truck can't get through anymore. We can't do this. As to the conditions that were put out there, again, we can, hammer this out as it gets to the vote, but the paths being unpaved, that sounds fine. I'll talk to my client about making the southwest buffer zone a no touch zone. Again, I think you can see from the proposal, it really would just be a corner of house 12 and really none of house 11. So it would just require, some monumentation to make sure the backyards aren't being touched, that no one's putting turf lawns in those corners. So I'll confirm that with my client, but I think at the outset, it's not, a deal breaker. The concrete area down front on Essex Avenue being revegetated, of course. And then the open space being under recorded restriction, part of the cluster development permit that this property received requires that all the it's not just the wetland open space within your jurisdiction, it's actually the entirety, everything shown in green on a lot of those slides we looked at last time. All of that open space, jurisdictional or not to Concom, has to be held open space for the benefit of the HOA that's going to run the neighborhood. So there is going to be this restriction in place for the benefit of the homeowners that are also in charge of maintaining the area. And again, we'll scoop up the wetland areas, the buffer zones, and the non-jurisdictional open space also. That's already in place as a condition of the planning board permit. Again, protecting mature trees, one of the things we're trying to do here, again, is trying to work with the topography, work with kind of where the natural path was, so I think that wouldn't be a bad condition that, you know, the larger trees, wherever possible, if they're healthy. Again, there were some trees you may have seen on the site visit that were very large trees, but they were not looking good. Those are gonna come down because they're just a safety issue, but otherwise, if they're a healthy tree and they're not in the way of something, there's no reason to pull them out. And then I think that was, the condition about prohibition of motorized vehicles on the pond, absolutely. So I think the rest, it really just pertains to that vernal pond and the stormwater standards as relates to it. One thing I will point out that Bill kind of touched upon is that if you look at the topography on some of the more detailed plans, right now, if BMP number 3 was to overtop, it's unlikely that that actually rolls down into the vernal pond itself. It probably rolls north toward BMP 2. But again, as Bill suggested, it would be fairly easy for the engineer to rework this to make sure that it's not a probably won't. It can just be set up that as a will not roll into the wetland area with the vernal pond in it. So that's, you know, again, that's not before you tonight as far as the plans you can see, but we can certainly go back and touch that up, and we come back with a touched up plan, kind of address the other stormwater standards that were talked about tonight by, I think, the commissioner and by the chair and by one of the neighbors. So if that all makes sense to you guys, it sounds like my homework is to rework BMP, and by saying me, I mean, get the people who are actually good at this. So rework the BMP number 3 to make sure that it's not gonna outflow anything into the vernal pool, address the have the stormwater report revisited, and I assume rather than producing another inch of paper, if we just have the engineers provide a supplement saying that in addition to the previous report, the 99% of it is remaining the same, and here's, if anything, any changes being made as like an addendum to the back rather than a full scale report. And then at that point, it'll be up to whether or not the commission is comfortable with the conditions we've kind of talked about to, safeguard the resources on site. Am I pretty close on that?
Pretty close. What about the habitat evaluation?
And that would be just for the vernal pond itself?
The one that is, yes, that is near BMP 3.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely don't know, is that a request, or do you think it's actually part of the stormwater requirements of the vernal? If it's a requirement, we're obviously gonna do it. It's a request, I just don't want to commit to it right now. I can check to see what that entails. For instance, I don't know how long a habitat evaluation takes and whether or not it can be done in October, right? If it can be done in October and it's a relatively short process, then I don't see my client objecting. If it's not mandatory, but it requires months of monitoring, or can only be done in May, that would kind of be, probably something that we could agree to do as a condition, but we wouldn't want to hold this open until then. That's my question as to the logistics of it.
Check out standard 6 of the stormwater requirements, and there's a chart in there that's titled, I think it's CA2, stormwater discharges near or to outstanding resource waters, including vernal pools and surface water sources for public water systems.
We will make sure we are in
Okay.
compliance with that.
Okay. Then at this point, unless, Chuck, did you have anything additional to add?
No, I think as long as you review that standard 6 and that table, because it's, the issue of the stormwater flowing in, but there's also a question of the proximity of BMPs to vernal pools. Look at that as well.
Okay, so you've got a lot of homework, and we will continue you to what, October 18th?
Sure.
Okay, Linda?
Yeah, Charpentier moves to continue NOI 0282950 at 160, 158R, 154A Essex Avenue to the commission meeting of October 18th.
And Gradwell second.
We'll call member Charpentier.
Yes?
Member Cook. Oh, he is abstained. Member Gradwell.
Yes.
Member Sargent.
Yes.
Member Viteri.
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes. Okay.
Thank
We
you.
will
Have a good
see you
night.
in 2 weeks, you too. Next up, we have NOI 0282953 at 549, 551 Essex Ave, Jeff Fraser, for construction of a duplex, retaining wall, and gravel parking area within buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands. Excuse me, represented by John Judd, Gateway Consultants, Inc.
For the record, Commissioner Cook has returned.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. For the record, John Judd, engineer with Gateway Consultants, representing Jeff Fraser of Fraser Property 551 LLC. This is a project that you've seen in the last two meetings. And at the last hearing, we had some instructions to, or recommendations, I say, to remove the existing packed millings or the asphalt surface that's out there and replace it with a pervious gravel. So what we've done is we've modified the plan to remove that. We've added note number 10. We've also added the notes on that, as Chuck has on the cursor there, to show that all that the millings be around the building and obviously within the footprint of the building all be removed. We're not taking credit for that because it's somewhat pervious, but obviously not as pervious as a crushed stone pervious surface. So the impervious area calculations do provide 150% mitigation planting without even taking the credit for that removal. And I think that was the extent of what was requested. We did have an option of trying to remove the Phragmites, if you may recall, within the resource area, but I think this is something that is Jeff can better control. It'll be something that he'd be able to take care of better than a long-term removal of the Phragmites, because there's other factors on that, the growth in that wetland, including the state highway adjacent properties. So those are our revisions. You may recall we did move the proposed dwelling further away from the resource area toward Essex Ave in that prior iteration. So we can answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. First, I'll open this up for public comment, and then we'll go through commissioner comments and give you a chance to respond. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at wherever we are, 549, 551 Essex Avenue?
We currently have 30 attendees and there are no hands up at this time.
Okay, I'll close the public comment period. Commissioners?
Member Charpentier.
No comments.
Member Cook.
No comments.
Member Gadwall.
I appreciate what you've done there to correct. No further.
Member Sargent.
Thank you for the meaningful changes. Any dewatering must be adequately treated before being discharged, and there should be a 2-year monitoring for the mortality of mitigation plantings.
Terry.
No comments from me.
Member Jackson.
Thank you for the changes. What are you doing with the Phragmites? I was thinking it might be nice. I know that it's a difficult, often unsuccessful project, but if you remove some, you may make way for more native vegetation to take over. And Chuck, did you have any comments?
Nothing additional. I know that Member Sargent had talked about possibly lowering the elevation of the ground there that might help preclude some Phragmites on part there. But I know he expressed concerns about the Phragmites being a difficult thing to tackle.
Mr. Judd?
Yeah, I would just concur. That was the takeaway that I had from the last meeting. I do know that the roots go down substantially between Phragmites and Japanese knotweed. It's very, very difficult and expensive and time consuming, and possible chemical additives and so forth. And that's Mr. Fraser's just not interested in doing that. If possible, he's willing to work with anyone to try to do that, but this is removing the asphalt. I think is going to go a long way on the water quality that's gonna be discharging into that wetland and taking away any potential bituminous additives that may be part of the runoff associated with that this project.
Okay. If there aren't any additional comments, I think we're ready to move forward. Linda, do you want to close the hearing?
Yeah, Charpentier moves to close the public hearing for NOI 0282953 at 549 and 551 Essex Avenue.
and Gradwell seconds.
Roll call, member Charpentier,
Yes,
member Cook,
Yes,
member Gradwell,
Yes,
member Sargent,
Yes,
member Terry,
Yes.
member Jackson.
Yes.
and Charpentier Charpentier moves to approve NOI 0282953 at 549, 551 Essex Avenue.
Gradwell seconds.
Roll call, member Charpentier,
Yes,
member Cook,
yes,
member Gradwell,
Yes,
member Sargent,
yes,
member Terry,
Yes.
member Jackson.
Yes, with the aforementioned conditions. Okay, thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much.
Judd. All right, next up, we have NOI 0282850 at 740 R Washington Street. Paul Hadley for raising of a seawall and grading in riverfront area, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and buffer zone to coastal resource area, represented by Chris Ross of Ross Environmental LLC. There has been a request to continue this to October 18th.
Charpentier moves to continue NOI 0282850 at 740 R Washington Street to the commission meeting of October 18th.
and Gradwell second.
Roll call, member Charpentier,
Yes,
Cook,
yes,
member Gradwell,
Yes,
Sargent,
yes,
Terry,
Yes.
member Jackson.
Yes. Next up, we have NOI 0282955 at 83 Verneck Drive, Louis Lucas for replacement of a collapsed seawall and coastal bank, land subject to coastal storm flowage and coastal resource area, represented by Richard A. Kirby of LEC Environmental Consultants, Inc. And there has also been a request to continue to October 18th for this one.
Charpentier moves to continue NOI 0282955 at 83 Verneck Drive to the commission meeting of October 18th.
and Gradwell seconds.
Call, member Charpentier,
Yes,
Cook,
yes,
member Gradwell,
Yes,
Sargent,
yes,
Terry,
Yes.
member Jackson.
Yes. Okay, moving on to new business. We first have RDA 1773 at 436 Washington Street, Kodiaton for removal of vegetation, installation of a natural playground and path in riverfront area and buffer zone to coastal resource area, represented by Kodiaton. Is Mr. Atten in the audience?
Not seeing Cody here. If there's anybody else that is here to represent this project, please raise your hand. Does not look like we have any takers.
Okay, Linda, let's continue to the 18th.
yep. Charpentier moves to continue RDA 1773 at 436 Washington Street to the commission meeting of October 18th.
and Gradwell seconds.
Call, member Charpentier,
Yes,
Cook,
yes,
member Gradwell,
Yes,
member Sargent,
yes,
member Terry,
Yes.
member Jackson.
Yes. Okay, next up, we have RDA 1791 at 116 Wheeler Street, Christopher Williams for installation of a steel stairway, associated helical piers, and pervious paver driveway in riverfront area and buffer zone to coastal resource area, represented by Bruce Comack of Comack Brothers, Inc. Do we have Mr. Comack?
He's promoting two panelists now.
Great. Name and address for the record, please, sir.
I'm sorry, I think I was muted.
Okay, name and address for the record, please.
Bruce Comack, 647 Lowell Street, Peabody, Massachusetts.
Okay, and if you could give us a brief summary of the project?
Mr. Williams contacted me and asked me he has asked me to install he has a compacted driveway area that's been existing for quite a long time. It's a dense grade pack. It's highly compacted. I told him that he was in the coastal bank and that I would not be interested in doing the work unless we were going to be, it would be done as a pervious driveway. So I provided you with a detail of exactly how we would do that. One of the things that I neglected to do is I did not show erosion controls, but they would be installed. We'd probably install a silt fence. I don't think a silt sock would do, because there's actually on three sides there is actually a cement wall that would actually protect it itself, but just in case we had some bad storm or something like that. So basically, in a nutshell, what I'm trying to do is I would like to put in basically a completely pervious driveway. We would be digging it down 18 inches to 2 feet and removing the compacted material and installing a pervious per the detail that's on the screen right now. The other thing,
Okay.
the other thing that he asked, as long as we had, I just told him that I wanted to go for to bring it before the Conservation Commission. And the other thing he was interested in was installing in your, it says a steel stairway. It would probably be aluminum just because of where it is, but it would be attached to the existing wall at the top, and at the bottom we would just be putting in 2 helical piers. If we hit ledge, then we would just be drilling into the ledge and there would be no excavating work. We'd all be doing all that work by hand.
Okay, thank you very much. What we're going to do at this time is open it up for public comment and then commissioner comments, and you can respond to everything at one time afterwards, okay?
Yes.
Okay, let's open this up for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at 116 Wheeler Street?
We currently have 27 attendees and there are no hands up at this time.
I'll close the public comment period. We'll move on to commissioner comments.
Member Charpentier,
No comments.
Member Cook,
Couple comments. As you're removing all the soil from the existing driveway, the existing materials are going to be taken off-site immediate, same day. That's like a question. The second thing is the stairway that's going down. It was hard to tell with that picture, but it appeared that it was pretty high up and it didn't appear to be any type of a landing at the bottom of it. So I wanted to know how that was going to be handled.
Well, it'll have to go through the building department, but I don't think you're going to actually have the helical piers will act as the bottom, and you will actually be stepping onto the virgin soil or what's there. It would be supported through the helical piers.
But what's at the bottom of that?
You're talking about what you're going to step onto or what supports it?
Yeah, what you're going to be stepping onto.
It's, if you would on the site, it's there's some ledge, there's some vegetation, and there's some gravel. There's actually like a gravel pathway there. It's existing.
Okay.
Member Governor,
No further comment.
Member Sergeant.
I want to make sure that the parking area isn't going to be expanded. And you did answer the question on how you're going to prevent erosion during construction. But I'm wondering now if the stairway in the path around it's going to impact any existing vegetation?
I don't believe so. Again, I could submit another picture to the conservation, to the commission. It's currently, he's currently used, it's, you know, as far as, he just doesn't want to have to go around the whole back of the house. It's been like we're just gonna go to the existing conditions. Like I said, there is some ledge in that area. I'm just not sure, if we if we can't use the helical piers, like I said, we'll just drill some holes in the ledge. But, it's just a rocky area. And there is some existing vegetation, but nothing that would be impacted by a few people walking down there.
Member Viteri?
This to me looks like a minor activity, so I have no comments.
Member Jackson?
I basically don't have any problems with the project at all, other than it is in a riverfront area and you're supposed to leave that better than before. And I'm wondering if the applicant would be amenable to putting in some native vegetation, preferably close to the resource area, if possible. You know, a few shrubs or something like that. Okay, sir, would you like?
I'm sure Mr. Williams would not be opposed to that.
Okay.
I'm, you know, it's kind of a degraded area as far as it's very natural like it is right now. But I'm sure we can find some native vegetation that we can put some shrubs in.
Okay, why don't we specify what, 3 shrubs? And if he wants to vary from that, he can work it out with the agent.
Okay, do you have a list of shrubs that you'd like me to use or something like that? Or do you want me to make a proposal?
There's one on the state site that
Okay.
you can use for native shrubs. And if you would just show Mr. Shade what you're going to be planting, that would be helpful prior to us issuing the order of conditions.
Okay.
Just let him know you're going to. Okay.
I don't see that. I don't see that as a problem. I'll make sure that
Okay.
happens. I'll make sure that happens.
I appreciate that. Okay, if there is no further discussion, are we ready to move forward, Linda?
We should, yeah, Charpentier moves to close the hearing for RDA 1791 at 116 Wheeler Street.
And Gradwell seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier?
Yes,
Member Cook?
Yes.
Member Gradwell?
Yes,
Member Sargent?
Yes.
Member Viteri?
Yes.
Member Jackson?
Yes.
and Charpentier moves for a negative determination for RDA 1791 at 116 Wheeler Street with the aforementioned condition of mitigation plantings of 3 shrubs.
and Gradwell seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier?
Yes,
Cook?
Yes.
Member Gradwell?
Yes,
Member Sargent?
Yes.
Member Viteri?
Yes.
Member Jackson?
Yes. Okay, sir, you're all set. We look forward to receiving the planting list.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next step, we have RDA 1792 at 29 Poplar Street. Robert V. Wynot for installation of a deck in riverfront area represented by Robert V. Wynot.
I'm looking for him now. I am not seeing him. I don't know. Robert, if you were there or somebody else is here to represent this project, please raise your hand and I can promote you. He's here at the moment.
Okay, why don't we table this? We'll come back to it. All right, let's move on to RDA 1793 at 2 Great Ledge Lane, James Cook, for construction of a new sewage disposal system and buffer zone bordering vegetated wetland and buffer zone to ACEC, represented by John Judd at Gateway Consultants, Inc.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Once again, John Judd, engineer with Gateway Consultants, representing Jim Cook, who resides at the property at 2 Great Ledge Lane. This is a replacement septic system, which is proposed partially within the buffer zone to an offsite wetland. Thanks, Chuck, for putting that up. So currently the existing septic tank and leach field is behind the house, to the left of the pool. You can see the oblong pool. There's a leach pit, leaching field and tank, and that's all obviously within the buffer zone to that offsite wetland. You can sort of see the radius, the 100-foot radius going around that extends into the property. So we've done soil testing with the health agent from the Board of Health, and we were able to get the proposed leaching field outside the buffer zone, where all components right now are within the buffer zone. The proposed leach field, thank you, is outside. But we are proposing an advanced treatment septic tank that would be further from the wetland, but still, due to gravity considerations, still has to be within the buffer zone as shown. But again, this is going to be a vastly improved quality of effluent going into the ground out here, further from the wetlands. And again, it would have proposed advanced treatment as shown on the revised plan that you have there. So can answer any questions you have, but everything, all work would be fortified with erosion control during construction period along the lot line. And we can answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Okay, let me open this up for public comment first. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at 2 Great Ledge Lane?
Currently have 24 attendees, and I'm not seeing any hands up at this time.
Okay, I'll close the public comment period. We'll move on to commissioner comments.
Member Charpentier,
No comment.
Member Cook,
No comments.
Member Gradwell,
No comment.
Member Sargent.
I want to make sure that this isn't within 300 feet of the ACEC, and I want to know if any trees will need to be removed. Thank you.
Member Viteri.
I have two questions. The first was the same ACEC question as Member Sargent asked. Second question is a note on your plan of a variance request from the Board of Health to locate the septic 75 feet instead of 100 feet away from the resource area. What's the status of that variance request? And do you need that? I guess my question is, is that going to be approved, or has that been approved?
And Member Jackson.
I also had the question about tree removal and ACEC, so they seem to be popular questions. Mr. Judd? Chuck,
Sure.
do you have anything to add? Oh, hang on, Chuck.
Yeah, I guess when I measured the distance for the ACEC, it does look like it would extend about 10, 12 feet or so onto the property. So it looks like there's currently maybe a 10-foot setback to the leaching field, which would kind of put it right at that edge. So it could be out. It is within the 200 to 300 foot portions. So portions of septics are allowed within that distance of the ACEC. But I am curious too about some of those trees. At least the root structures would be impacted, or some of those trees along that edge there that could potentially be in the ACEC or within the 100-foot buffer zone.
Okay, Mr. Judd, you're.
Yes, thank you. I think Chuck took care of that question. We are, again, just barely into the ACEC with the overclear, but the system itself is outside the 300-foot. Again, we are using advanced treatment. The ACEC setback of 300 feet is under your local regulations. As you know, the state requires, has a, in terms of the septic component is a 50-foot setback, but we're over 300, close to 300 feet, I should say, from the ACEC, which is across the street and associated with Walker Creek. as you all know. As far as the tree removal, the reason we selected this area is because there's a large stand of pine trees to the left of the driveway. And that's why we are proposing the leach field here. So we're not anticipating tree removal as part of this. That's why we sort of configured it. There are large pines on the other side, and I think that was an option that the Board of Health. So this, to answer Peter's question, this has gone before the Board of Health Septic Review Subcommittee, and they. And Dave, feel free to opine on this, but this was an option in it's my understanding to put in advanced treatment, which is what we're doing, or relocate the reserve area. And this board should not be concerned about the reserve area because we're not proposing that to be built. That's just showing 100% expansion for future expansion that's required under Title V. But as far as the actual work within the buffer, it would be the new tank. And I think that would answers the questions, but Dave, I'm sure you may have some comments on that as well.
Not really.
Okay.
So has the
Mr. Judd?
variance been issued?
Yes,
It has not, but as part of the hearing, they requested that the advanced treatment tank be installed, and that's what we've done. So that was their only hang up, I guess.
Okay. I would just request a condition that no work begins until the variance issues.
Absolutely.
Mr. Judd, you mentioned that you did not anticipate trees being removed. Is the work close to the roots of any of these trees? Do you anticipate the trees being impacted?
I don't anticipate trees being impacted by the installation of this. If they are, then we'll be in touch with Chuck on that.
Okay, all right, that's fair. Okay. Then if everybody's questions have been answered, I think we can move forward.
Okay, Charpentier moves to close the public hearing for RDA 1793 at 2 Great Ledge Lane.
And Gradwell seconds.
Oh, Member Charpentier,
Yes,
Member Cook,
Yes,
Member Gradwell,
Yes,
Member Sargent,
yes,
Member Viteri,
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes.
and Charpentier moves for a negative determination for RDA 1793 at 2 Great Ledge Lane with the aforementioned condition that no work commence before approval of the variance.
and Gradwell second.
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes,
Member Cook,
yes,
Member Gradwell,
Yes,
Member Sargent,
yes,
Member Viteri,
Yes.
and Member Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
You're welcome. Next up, we have RDA 1794, 1A Stanwood Point, Jim Cullinan for installation of a bluestone patio and deck extension in riverfront area and buffer zone to Salt Marsh, represented by Jim Cullinan.
Yeah, to be promoting to panelists now.
And Mr. Cullinan, name and address for the record, please.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Jim Cullinan. I live at 1A Stanwood Point.
Okay, and a brief summary of the project?
Yeah, so I'm looking to add an extension to an existing deck at that location for about 5 feet with a step down to a new bluestone pervious patio. Thank you, Chuck.
Okay. Okay, the routine here is that we will open this up to public comment and then to commissioner comments, and you'll take notes and then make your response to all of us at one time.
Okay.
So I'm going to open this up first for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at 1A Stanwood Point?
We currently have 22 attendees, and I'm not seeing any hands up at this time.
Okay. I'll close the public comment period. We'll move on to commissioner comments.
Member Charpentier,
No comments?
Member Cook,
No comments.
Member Gradwell,
No comment.
Member Sergeant.
I note that this is a condominium, and I'm wondering if this proposal has been approved by the condominium association. And I believe the wrong box was checked in the riverfront section of the application. This lot was created in 2015 and therefore not recorded before 1996. And I note that you have mitigation plantings, and I think there should be a 2-year monitoring for the mortality of mitigation plantings.
Member Viteri,
This looks like a minor activity to me, so I have no comments.
Member Jackson,
No, I think Mr. Sargent's comments require some clarification. Mr. Cullinan, would you like to respond?
Yes, forgive me, Mr. Sergeant, I was unaware I checked the wrong box. Happy to resubmit, if that's what you'd like. Checking the correct box.
I think a note that you've done that and will correct, that
Okay,
this
so
should be the correct, would be
just
fine.
Send a note to this commission.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what about native plantings?
Yeah, so the
I think-
plan, as you could see, when Charles put it up, we're planting about 8 arborvitae plants
Okay,
on the left side there. That's primarily
Okay.
going to be used as kind of a privacy screen as we add the patio.
okay. Right. Okay. If
What
no
about
one
the condo association section? If this is part of a condo
right.
association?
So yes, it is, but it's a 2-unit association. Was that Mr. Cook? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
right. So Mr. Cook, it's a 2-unit association, and we actually have separate lots that are unique to our location. So we do not need permission from the other members of the association.
Okay. All right, then I have no further questions. Does anyone else have any? Chuck, did you have any comments?
yeah, nothing additional on this.
Okay, Linda, you want to move forward?
Yeah, Charpentier moves to close the public hearing for RDA 1794 at 1A Stanwood Point.
And Gradwell seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes?
Member Cook,
Yes.
Member Gradwell,
Yeah,
Member Sergeant,
Yes,
Member Viteri,
Yes.
and Member Jackson.
Yes. Okay,
Okay,
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
thank you, Commissioner.
hang
Have a
on.
good evening.
we need one more vote, sorry.
I'm sorry, my mistake.
Yep. Charpentier moves for a negative determination for RDA 1794 1A Stanwood Point with the aforementioned condition of 2-year mortality monitoring for the mitigation plantings.
Gradwell seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes?
Member Cook,
Yes.
Member Gradwell,
Yes,
Member Sergeant,
yes,
Member Viteri,
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes, and I shared your error. Now you're all set, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
All
Have a
right,
good night.
thank you. Thank you, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Next up, we have extension 0282731 at 238-240 Atlantic Street, Jennifer and Pasquale Buonapane, for construction of a single-family home, driveway, landscaping, and appurtenances in the buffer zone to Coastal Bank, represented by Abigail Monzi of DeRosa Environmental Consulting, Inc. Is Ms. Monzi here?
You have Evan Gavendran will be representing.
Yep. Good evening, Commissioners. This is Evan Gavendran of DeRosa Environmental. I'm here representing the Buonapanes for a extension request for the project at 238-240 Atlantic Road. We're requesting a 1-year extension to complete the project as it's not finished yet. The order of conditions was issued in September of 2020. So construction was delayed during the pandemic. So they just need a little bit more time to finish the project.
Okay, thank you. We're going to open this up for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the application for extension at 238, 240 Atlantic Street?
I have this Bill Cook, I'm sorry. This Atlantic Street or Atlantic Road?
I believe it's Atlantic Road.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. That's important.
Okay.
Okay. So with the new context in mind, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at 238 to 240 Atlantic Road?
We currently have 20 attendees. I'm not seeing any hands up at this time.
Okay, I'll close the public comment period. We'll move on to commissioner comments.
I'm Charpentier.
No comment?
Cook.
No comments now.
Member Gradwell.
No comment.
Member Sargent.
No comment.
Member Lettieri.
No comment.
And Member Jackson.
No comments. Okay, Chuck, did you have anything to add?
No, I did a site visit out there last week, I guess, or beginning of this week. Everything looked good. I noticed the DEP number sign was missing, but that has been replaced. So all good from my standpoint.
Okay. All right, Linda?
Yeah, Charpentier moves to close the public hearing for extension 0282731 at 238, 240 Atlantic Road.
And Gradwell seconds it for the road.
Roll call, Member Charpentier.
Yes,
Member Cook.
Yes.
Member Gradwell.
Yes,
Member Sargent.
Yes.
Member Lettieri.
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes.
and Charpentier moves to approve extension 0282731 at 238, 240 Atlantic Road.
and Gradwell seconds.
Oh, Member Charpentier.
Yes,
Member Cook.
Yes.
Member Gradwell.
Yes,
Member Sargent.
Yes.
Member Lettieri.
Yes.
And Member Jackson.
Yes, you're all set, sir. And that was a good catch, Bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
good night.
Oh, yeah, sir, ma'am. Miss. Whatever the appropriate title is in these days. Okay, next up, we have extension 0282732 at 28 King Phillips Road, David Surratt, for construction of a 3-foot by 66.5-foot pier for recreational use on the Little River, represented by William J. Manuel, Wetlands and Land Management, Inc. And I believe Mr. Manuel is in Rockport.
Yeah.
Do commissioners, he is, he's not here, okay. Do commissioners wish to discuss the extension or to continue it to another meeting? Let's do a commissioner comments on this.
Member Charpentier.
Continue.
Member Cook.
I don't have a problem. I know what they're trying to do. I remember this. I mean, we could go ahead and prove it if we want or extend it. Doesn't matter to me.
Member Gradwell.
it's only once every few years that we deny any kind of an extension, and that's only because they want too long.
Member Sargent.
Hakuna Matata.
Member Lettieri.
My only question is when does the current approval expire? But other than that, I mean, if they have time for the next meeting and they're still within the approval period, I don't have a problem continuing, but I also don't have a problem approving it.
And Member Jackson.
I don't have any problem with continuing. He said it took forever to obtain the Chapter 91 license, and it's now in the appeal period, so I would grant the extension contingent to receipt of the Chapter 91 license. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Linda, you're okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, then. Chuck, did you have any comment?
No.
Okay, Linda, go for it.
We have to close the public hearing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Charpentier moves to close the public hearing for extension 0282732 at 28 King Phillips Road.
Gradwell, second.
Roll call, member Charpentier,
Yes,
Cook,
Yes,
Gradwell,
Yes,
member Sergeant,
Yes,
member Terry,
Yes.
and member Jackson.
Yes. All right. Moving on, we have NOI 028 unassigned.
don't we have,
DEP.
don't?
no, oh no, now we have to
gotta
vote on
approve
it.
it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Charpentier moves to approve extension 0282732 at 28 King Phillips Road with the condition that the contingent upon the chapter 91 license.
it's not contingent on the chapter 91. They're gonna get the extension or they're not gonna get the extension. But the chapter 191 license hasn't anything to do with it.
Okay.
Gradwell, second.
Roll call, member Charpentier,
Yes,
member Cook,
Yes,
member Gradwell,
Yes,
member Sergeant,
yes,
member Terry,
Yes.
member Jackson.
Yes. Okay. Sorry, I was trying to figure out whether I'd ever actually opened the public hearing on that public comment period. I don't know whether I did, but you don't have to on an extension, so. Okay, moving on, I will amend my ways to NOI 028 unassigned DEP number at 43 Shore Road, Ronald Norden for construction of a replacement septic system, paved driveway and hardscape in land subject to coastal storm flowage and buffer zone to coastal resource area represented by Daniel Ottenheimer, Mill River Consulting. They have requested a continuation to October 18th.
Charpentier moves to continue NOI 028, no DEP number at 43 Shore Road to the commission meeting of October 18th.
Gradwell, second.
Roll call, member Charpentier,
Yes,
member Cook,
yes,
member Gradwell,
Yes,
member Sergeant,
yes,
member Terry,
Yes.
member Jackson.
Yes. And next we have NOI 0282959 61 Shore Road, Hamdi Kozlu for construction of an addition and pervious patio to a single family home, expansion of an existing P-stone driveway and buffer zone to coastal resource area and land subject to coastal storm flowage, represented by John Judd, Gateway Consultants, Inc.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Once again, John Judd, engineer with Gateway Consultants, representing Mr. Kozlu for this project at the corner of Shore Road and Hesperus Ave. This is across the street from the coastal bank and the seawall associated, fairly close to the Magnolia Pier, which is just to the top of the screen. This is a proposed expansion, as pointed out by the chair, on the southerly side. Thank you, Chuck, for showing that. And that is going to be, this project has been approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals through substantial input from different parties, including the butters. And this is a buffer zone notice of intent out, which is across the street, obviously. We are proposing a pervious patio behind the structure, as shown with a decorative retaining wall as well. And that is the extent of it. The impervious area calculations are shown, and we are proposing 200% mitigation. And there are some overgrown arborvitae in the footprint of the proposed addition. Those would be removed and replaced with new native plants at 200% for. There's basically there's 4 overgrown arborvitaes that would be replaced with 8 native trees. And Mr. Kozlu's on the call tonight as well. We can answer any questions you might have. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll open this up for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the project 61 Shore Road?
We have 20 attendees and currently have 1 hand up. Susan Pollock.
Okay, name and address for the record, please.
Susan, please unmute yourself.
I'm sorry, that was a technological problem. I didn't mean to raise my hand.
That's, oh, okay.
Okay, my
Thank you very much.
apologies.
That's okay.
No problem. Okay, are there any other hands raised that may have been intentional?
We do not have any other hands up at this time.
Okay, I'll close the public comment period. We'll move on to commissioner comments.
Member Charpentier,
No comment.
Member Cook,
No comments.
Member Gradwell,
No comment. I think they did a nice job of laying it out.
Member Sargent.
Yes, I note again that this is a condominium, and I'm wondering if the proposal's been approved by the condominium association. And also, the new proposed impervious surfaces are within the 100-foot buffer zone to the coastal bank. However, the mitigation plantings are depicted to be outside the 100-foot buffer zone. Therefore, in my opinion, this isn't a valid mitigation. Thank you.
Member Vittori.
Yep, two questions. The revised plan doesn't show a yard or a roof drain. Those were shown on the original plan. Have these been removed from the scope of work? The second question is, are there mitigation plantings that are in addition to the proposed 8 native trees, or is that the proposed mitigation?
And Member Jackson.
I had similar questions to the previous ones. So Mr. Judd, Chuck, did you have any additions?
Yeah, nothing additional to what you guys have mentioned.
Okay, Mr. Judd?
Okay, thank you. So just going through the process, this project again was approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals. In that process, Mr. Hanslew is gone through the effort of working with the neighbors, and the two other, the Nogas are the other two owners of the two buildings on this condominium, and they are they've been in contact with the applicant, and they are aware of it. So did they specifically approve it in writing? I cannot answer that, Mr. Sargent, but you know, Hamdi, if you want to raise your hand and maybe expand on that, that would be helpful. Relative to the mitigation plantings outside the buffer, we are in a very tight lot here, but the intent is to add additional planting where it's possible. So we have a potential along the side of the house as well as the front of the house to expand on that landscaping, which is, you know, closer to the coastal bank, but we're, you know, proposing 938 square feet in a fairly tight area here. So the applicant is aware of that, and he's fully planning on to expand that native planting in front into the side of the house in between the addition and the coastal bank. So we do have mitigation notes to that effect on the plan. And I think that was those trees are part of the mitigation, but there would be additional planting of shrubs and herbaceous layers, and in addition to those trees as shown on the plan. And I'm not sure if Hamdi has raised his hand to maybe expand on that condominium question. Do you see anything, Chuck?
Yes, Hamdi's hand is up. I'll allow him to talk now.
Good evening. This is Hamdi Kazlı, 61 Shore Road. As you said, John, Mr. Noga and his wife, Marcia Noga, own the other two buildings. And in the ZBA discussion, they were in full support of this addition. And in fact, they put it in writing as well as they stated verbally in the meeting, ZBA meeting. I did share, and John, you also shared the information with them. And my conversation with them, they were supportive of it, but I don't have anything in writing. I don't know Mr. Noga is on the call. If he is on the call, I'm sure he can speak his opinion. So, but to my knowledge, that they are in support of the proposal.
Okay, is he on the call, Chuck?
I do see Jim Noga on the call. His hand is not raised.
It would be nice if,
Looks like Jim.
okay,
Damn, he disappeared. There you go.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
name and
so-
address for the record, please, sir.
James Noga at 61-1 and 61-3 Shore Road. Well, 61-1. My wife's at 61-3. And as noted during the zoning board discussion, is we were supportive of this project moving forward.
Okay, we appreciate you letting us know that. Thank you, sir. Okay, where were we? Commissioner comments? Did we finish those?
Mr. Judd, did you address the yard and the roof drain?
Oh.
The yard drain, I'm not sure, Peter, what you're referring to, quite frankly.
I saw two plans in our files. The first plan had a yard drain and a roof drain that were basically, I believe, just taking stormwater out towards the street. I think they were along the sort of the edge.
Yeah, no, that is definitely proposed to be in there, and I'm a little confused myself why that didn't get carried over to the record plan that you have. So that is, we'll definitely put that back in, because I'm confused myself. I have to talk to my draftsman on that, why that was not carried over, but we'll take care of that. That's not an issue to add that drain back in, because that's very important for this project, as discussed with the applicant, to collect that roof drainage. So we will add that to the, make sure it's carried over to the plan. I can get that to Chuck.
And where's the intended outlet of those drains?
So the outlet would be between the proposed addition and the Keystone driveway. This is going to be if you've been out there, you'll see it's a very porous driveway, pea stone surface, and the intent is to just allow that. The yard drain is simply to allow that water that comes down slope to not be trapped and dammed up by this proposed addition, because that's where the water goes. And we don't want to deflect that water over toward Mr. Noga's property, and we don't want it to go into the basement. So we're just going to let that go through with a 4-inch pipe. It's going to be a small plastic yard drain that you'd see at Home Depot, and then that would discharge to the surface right at the end of the house, between the house and the driveway, and infiltrate into the driveway. So it's not intended to pick up any more than what's coming down the hill now behind the house.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so your questions are answered. Mr. Sargent, are you satisfied with answers to your questions?
I'd like to make sure that there will be some native plantings mitigation within the buffer zone. And if so, I would like a 2-year monitoring for the mortality of those mitigation plantings.
Okay. You good with that, Mr. Judd?
Yep, no problem.
Okay. All right. Then, if there are no further questions, I think we're ready to move forward.
Okay, Charpentier moves to close the public hearing for NOI 0282859 at 61 Shore Road.
And Gradwell seconds.
We'll call Member Carpenter,
Yes,
Member Cook,
Yes.
Member Gradwell,
Yes.
Member Sargent,
Yes.
Member Terry,
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes.
And Charpentier moves to approve NOI 0282859 with the aforementioned conditions of native plantings in the buffer zone with a 2-year mortality.
Gradwell seconds.
Roll call, member Charpentier.
Yes,
Member Cook,
Yes.
member Gradwell.
Yes.
Member Sergeant,
Yes,
member Viteri,
Yes.
and member Jackson.
Yes, with receipt of a corrected plan by the agent showing the 2 drains.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. All right,
Thank
have a
you.
good night.
You too. Okay, last but not least, under new business, we have NOI 0282958 at 1 Salt Island Road. John Paul Martinetti at 1 Salt Island Road LLC for renovation of an existing building, construction of a handicap ramp, redesign of exterior courtyard, walkways, stairs, and appurtenances in buffer zone to coastal dune, coastal beach, and land subject to coastal storm flowage, represented by P. Chase Bernier, SWCA Environmental Consultants. Do we have Mr. Bernier?
Good evening, Commission. This is Meredith Bornstein from SWCA, stepping in for Chase.
Okay.
Thank you
If you
so
can
much.
give us a brief description of the project?
Yeah, so actually the applicant and the owner of the property was about to log on, and he wanted to do a little presentation and give you a bit of a history of the Good Harbor Inn. But as folks mostly, you probably know, I don't see him. Hopefully he'll try to join.
Yep, he is here.
Okay, yeah, he wanted to talk first, and then I was going to do a little talk about the weapons part aspect.
Okay.
He's promoting now.
Okay. I don't know, are we allowed to share our screens if that, okay, because he had a couple slides he wanted to show you folks. I can also show what he was gonna show. Oh, I don't see, oh, here he comes.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, name and address for the record, sir, please.
John Paul Martinetti, 1 Salt Island Road. Madam Chair, members of the commission, good evening. I won't take up too much of your time, long meeting, but I wanted to at least introduce the project and provide some context. Again, with me this evening, Meredith Borenstein, SWCA, our environmental consultant, and Mike Giuliano of Eagleburg Engineering, our civil engineer. Good Harbor Beach Inn, obviously long history on the beach. First welcoming guest 1910, multiple structures, rebuilds over the course of time, different locations, both in its current location and across the street at the corner of Witham and Salt Island Road. The existing project, 1957 construction, and it was the result of postseason fire, 1957. So rebuilt, reopened, 1959. Continued its storied tradition of welcoming guests to the inn. The existing structures remain in much the same format as the current structure, having undertaken various minor updates and changes over the years. The inn is very much original, dating back to 60 plus years. We purchased the inn in 2022 with the understanding that it would need significant renovation in order to continue to operate, and with the understanding that Gloucester, the area residents, beach visitors should be able to enjoy the beachside inn for many years to come. Tended renovation, thoughtfully planned to provide the same experience with the benefit of new and reliable amenities, modern code compliance, the value of the proposed renovations versus the assessed value of the existing structures results in the project being considered substantial renovation pursuant to building code and pursuant to FEMA standards. In addition to modern building and energy code compliance, we've designed the renovations in compliance with the FEMA sustainability standards and the Americans with Disability standards. Given the topography of the site, not easy to achieve, but we're proud to be able to offer an ADA compliant room. and co-located deck and courtyard access. We've proceeded through those meetings with the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board and received those required approvals based on the plans that you'll be seeing this evening. Additionally, we're happy to report that the renovation proposes to make the inn compliant with FEMA construction and sustainability standards in alignment with the federal, state, and local floodplain management goals. Lastly, we take great pride in the businesses that we operate, the hospitality we provide, and the positive impact on the community. We're confident that the proposed renovation will improve the entrance to the storied Briar Neck to Good Harbor Beach and continue to be a jewel for the city of Gloucester for many years to come. It is our intent that the work take place on site, create zero disruption to the beach habitat, and is fully contained within the existing retaining walls. We look forward to beautifying the site, where our season has ended at the inn, and we look forward to working expeditiously towards getting all required approvals. And we thank you for your review this evening and happy to assist in moving things forward. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Meredith to run through the NOI and the plan, and Mike Giuliano from Eaglebrook Engineers on as well. So any questions specific to him, we can answer as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, John. So as folks know, if you know the property, it is right on the beach. It's a fully developed site with the existing inn. And as part of this project, they will be working within the 100-foot buffer zone to Coastal Bank and within the land subject to coastal storm flowage. So the impacts to buffer zone will be de minimis given that it's already a developed property. However, they are planning on improving the stormwater at the site by decreasing the impervious surface, removing some of the roof decks that are currently there within the courtyard, and then creating a pervious pathway so the attendants can walk around the site. So ultimately, they'll end up decreasing the impervious surface at the site. Stormwater management is hard, and the engineer can talk more about that given that the property is on ledge. Let's see. So ultimately, there will be an improvement. They will be doing landscaping on the property that will be utilizing native plantings, and that should also help with stormwater management. So let's see, the other issue is the very southwest corner of the site is mapped as rare species habitat by Natural Heritage. We did file the permit with them as well. They have a 30-day waiting period. I'll share my screen and just show you. I think it was sort of it's just a mapping issue. The site is obviously developed and is not going to be suitable for rare species. The rare species that we believe is present in the adjacent beach. Here, I'll just show the map. Can folks see that?
It's in process.
Oh,
here it is.
Okay. Yeah, so this is the property outline, this red. And then I can zoom out a little bit. This polygon is mapped by the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program. So, you know, I think it was just sort of a mapping issue that the property is mapped because that little corner is developed and is currently a retaining wall and a little walkway. So, but we filed with them just because it is mapped and that's the law. So we are waiting for their response. I did want to mention we did receive a file number. Did you already? I think you might have already said that. And
yes, 2958.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted folks to know that. Other than that, I think I'll stop talking. I can show photos of the site if folks are interested in seeing it. If they haven't been able to do a site visit, or we can just open it up. Go back to you guys.
Yeah. And we do have some photos in the file that people have looked at.
Okay, great.
So are we waiting to hear from the engineer at this point?
I think if folks have
Is he speaking?
questions about the stormwater or the site, oh, I can share the plans. If folks have questions about that, we'll have the engineer pop in.
Okay, well, what we will do then is follow our usual routine, which is opening it up to public comment and then to commissioner comments. And then the applicant's team will have a chance to respond to all of those comments at one time after everyone is finished. Okay? So we're going to open up this project for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at 1 Salt Island Road?
We currently have 16 attendees, and I'm seeing a couple hands popping up. The first one is Jane Knott.
Okay, name and address for the record, please, and then your comments.
My name is Jane Knott. I live at 29 Salt Island Road in Gloucester. And I just had a couple of questions. One was related to the new Gloucester floodplain ordinance. My first one is it the Conservation Commission that enforces this ordinance? And then with relation to this project, a fairly large portion of the lot falls within the VE special hazard flood zone, which is a velocity zone. And I know that the Gloucester floodplain ordinance specifically talks about the VE zone. So my question is, was this considered in the plans? And what is being done about it?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And
is there anyone? Go ahead.
Right now, TT.
Okay, name and address for the record.
Hi, this is Tom Todd and also Catherine Richmond. She couldn't get online, so we're sharing a connection here. And I'll let her go first. You want to go?
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Catherine, name and address for the record, please.
Catherine Richmond, 5 Salt Island Road, Gloucester.
Okay.
Okay.
And your comments? Catherine, did you have some comments?
Yes.
Please let us know.
At present, there's a stormwater issue coming from the street, rushing through the motel property, and then onto Dennis Dyer's property, causing erosion. I have contacted the DPW and multiple times, and they have decided not to do anything about it. And I'm wondering what can be done about it. I'm concerned with, just the continuous erosion. Also, I'm concerned about it. The plans that have a deck, the lighting on the deck, the noise. I've already struggled with the present lighting on the motel, the new lighting that was installed. It wasn't compliant with the lighting ordinances that they point down. And also the property history. I just wanted to comment on this. In 57, a structure was built, and then a few years later, another structure was built, and I believe that structure, separate from the other, wasn't done according to permit, and then eventually it was grandfathered in.
Okay.
I was very concerned about the parking. I don't understand how adding another unit where this parking is going to appear. Right now, the spaces are slanted. And I'm not, if that could be cleared up. Exactly what the parking will be, the people that work there, their spaces, you know, and on occasions, you know, people have parked partly on my property.
Okay, parking's not really a Conservation Commission issue,
Okay.
but
Just checking.
is there anything else that you would like to say?
No, that's it.
Okay, what about Tom?
Hi, this is Tom Todd, 90 Witham Street, 4 Salt Island Road. First comment is that this is sort of the poster child for storm damage in Cape Ann. It's a very low piece of property. In my lifetime, I have seen that retaining wall, if you want to call it a seawall, you can, completely broken and in pieces on the beach in front of it. I've seen it broken another time, and a lot of the fill washed out and contaminating the beach. So this is the sort of stuff that we're seeing more and more as time goes on, where the seawall gets overwashed, underwashed, and broken. And a lot of material from that lot gets washed into the beach, which I would think would be a concern of the committee. I don't understand right now, and I guess this is a question. There are a lot of things going on here in terms of rebuilding buildings and things like that, and I don't know whether any of those are Conservation Commission issues, or those get handled in the Board of Appeals. I object to the increase in height, but I understand. And one of the questions is, what's the baseline for what the height limitations are? Is it the filled property, or is it the natural elevation of the property?
That is not a conservation issue. Some of the other items you've mentioned are.
Okay. I guess the parking stuff would be something that went to the Board of Appeals, as opposed to, and you guys wouldn't be, this is talking about, okay, so the parking would not be part of it. You're talking about a handicap ramp, which I understand is one of the things FEMA does a buy on. I guess though, is lighting also something that Conservation Commission handles? I mean, there has been for a very long time a lot of light that shines on the beach in Florida, where I also have property. That's considered a no-no because it disturbs the turtles and other sea life. And the lighting is both objectionable from that conservation aspect, but also on the personal aspect.
I understand.
That's basically my issues.
Okay. Thank you very much. Chuck, is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Chuck, are you muted?
I am muted. We do not have any other hands up at this time.
Okay, I'll close the public comment period. We'll go through commissioner comments.
Member Charpentier.
Now, the only question that I had was the stormwater runoff, and where does it go?
Yeah, I've quite a few questions. Kind of struggling to see exactly what the changes are that are going to be made. If you look at, and I believe it's the previous or the existing drawing. And then you look at the one that has the red lines, it kind of almost looks like you're only doing stairs and stuff like that. But it looks like there's a lot of walkways that are going in. The pictures show a lot of the stairways, all crumbling and stuff like that, but I couldn't see any details of how any of that was going to be replaced, how they were going to do it, the work steps involved in it. So I'm a little bit confused as far as what the scope of this project is going to be.
Sergeant?
I didn't see a staging area, and this is a very tight, constrained area, and I couldn't see where you'd be keeping equipment, debris, and everything else, and what steps you're going to be taking to make sure that wind-blown debris doesn't enter the resource areas. And I note that coastal dune number 2 is right next to the retaining wall, and I want to make sure that there are steps going to be taken to not impact coastal dune number 2. And I also want to make sure that the piping plover habitat is protected. So I'm really hoping to hear from Natural Heritage.
Member Materi?
Yeah, I'm interested in hearing from Natural Heritage too. I think we're within that 30-day period, so I think we're gonna have to continue anyway. Second question about whether any work was going to be on the retaining wall to rebuild the retaining wall or strengthen it or anything like that.
Member Jackson?
Hold on, just writing down notes here. No, I had some similar questions. I am concerned about the bird nesting habitats, but I would like to hear from Natural Heritage on that. Chuck, did you have some additions?
Yes, I did want to clarify from the one question from the public regarding the floodplain ordinance. It applies to residential buildings, and this is a commercial building, so it would not apply to this building. And the questions I had, I guess, also from one of the public comments about debris and stuff and storms getting washed onto the beach. I've definitely seen that as well with the railings getting washed out, and then also all the gravel and stuff that's there. Even not during storm times, kind of gets knocked over the wall there. And so it'd be good to maybe see something else done there, so we're not having some of those materials kind of ending up down on the beach in the sand. And I did have a question too about there's mention of native plantings, and I did not see that anywhere in the plans. That's all I have.
Okay, then someone from the applicant's team, there's lots and lots of stuff to respond to here, starting with the public comments.
I'm happy to jump in and just run through, and then I'll defer to Meredith and Mike on the technical. Chuck addressed the question. Yeah, the new ordinance is not applicable to non-residential. With regard to the VE zone, yes, it has been taken into consideration, and we've planned accordingly to perform the renovation in compliance with FEMA. To the questions from Tom and Catherine and comments. Catherine's a direct neighbor. We're in regular communication, and we've struggled with some runoff from the street. It's my understanding that the road was repaved in recent years, and a crown was added to the middle when I think traditionally it was flat. So I'm happy to coordinate with the DPW and city engineer as to how to address that. But that's not stormwater that is on our site. It's water coming from the roadway. So previously it ran down the roadway, and now some of it is just taking a hard left and running down between properties. So it's basically the roadway that's dumping onto our site and neighboring sites. you know, with regard to the building questions, lighting, so on and so forth, certainly we'll, you know, work that out with the building department. Everything will be in code compliance. And I'm happy to coordinate with Catherine if there's any existing light issues on site that we can address. With regard to the FEMA considerations, again, you know, in full compliance with FEMA requirements. As noted, much of this project in terms of the building renovation is driven by FEMA. So I heard some comments about height of building, so on and so forth. And essentially a portion of this building is lower than the threshold for the new FEMA maps. So a portion of the building, the height needs to go up to comply with FEMA. The height of the building ultimately is still within zoning requirements, but the total height ends up going up about 3 feet for a portion of the structure. The vast majority of the structure does not change. It stays in place. Questions from the commission, comments from the commission. Again, with regard to stormwater coming from the roadway, it is on the roadway, so I believe it just needs to not be directed towards our site from the roadway. And I'm not sure whether or not the city would handle that with a curb. Certainly, you know, we'll be doing work on site as well, so we're happy to coordinate however that could get handled. With regard to debris from the site, certainly in the midst of construction, you know, we're willing and able to do anything and everything that we need to do, whether it be a silt fence or something greater than that, you know, to protect all work and keep all work on site. And with regard to the dune that was mentioned directly adjacent to us, we're happy to coordinate, you know, with Chuck on anything that you may want or require to further protect that area from any sort of disturbance. So there's no major work anticipated in that area, but we're happy to coordinate that. Other questions? Retaining wall. There is no work proposed on the retaining wall. The existing retaining wall is functional, exists in its current course, and we didn't feel it was appropriate or pertinent to be getting involved with the beach or you know, entering into that coastal bank. With regard to planting, it's our intent to replant the areas on the site that you see as pervious areas with native plants from the coastal zone management published planting list. If the commission so requires us to provide a list with specificity, we're happy to do so. Certainly just let us know. And I think that's as much as I can answer. I'll defer to Meredith and Mike on any other questions I've left void.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, JP. I feel like you covered most of the questions. Again, I guess I just want to reiterate that no work is proposed on the retaining wall. You know, anything that happens to that wall because of high tides or flowage isn't, you know, it's not really part of this project. The project really is to get in compliance, to renovate the inn, get in compliance with the FEMA regulations. We didn't explain it very well, but we are going to be raising part of the building that's in area subject to coastal storm flowage. So part of the building will be put on elevated raised supports. And sorry, that wasn't communicated at the beginning. So I feel like we're actually going to be improving the site to deal with high tides. Let's see if there was anything else. Yeah. Again, as far as stormwater, anything coming off the street, I think we do need to coordinate with other city agencies to deal with that. As far as stormwater on our property, on the JP's property, we're trying to manage it on site, and we actually are decreasing the impervious surfaces by utilizing pervious pavers rather than the pea stone that's currently there. I think that will also help. I think there was a concern Charles had about stuff coming off of that sitting area, or pea stone coming off of that. I think the pervious pavers will help decrease anything that can move during rain events. Ultimately, I think we have a 250 square foot reduction in impervious surface. So there is a reduction. The calculations are in the notice of intent in a little table in there. Let's see.
I'm just, Meredith, if you don't mind, I'm jumping because I think
Please do.
Commissioner Viteri had a question regarding the scope of work.
Yeah.
And given the plan, it does not look as though there is a lot of scope of work, and much of the function of that is it's a renovation of the building. With regard to the courtyard areas, we're effectively going to be replacing any and all, somebody mentioned crumpling staircases and so on and so forth. So the intent is a reconfiguration of the courtyard, which more or less exists between the two buildings. Reconfiguration of the existing stairways and access and how, circulation of the site happens. But in terms of the areas closest to the beach on, Witham Road and adjacent to the private beach behind us, the intent is to do as little as possible. Right now, that area is just currently all pea stone. Much of that is a function of the fact that we weren't, we're new to the site and we just wanted to kind of keep everything status quo. But it's our intent to essentially landscape that entire area with the exception of a permeable path that's been proposed, because right now people are essentially, trudging through that pea stone. And it's not a great experience for our guests, nor do we feel that it's a good transition from there to the beach. So the intent is native planting in that area, in addition to the permeable paver walkway. Try and create a natural landscape. Unfortunately, given our need to come in compliance with FEMA, we will have a good deal of, I guess you'll call it lattice on the lower portion there of the building and deck. And we want to beautify that a bit, and obviously introducing native planting to cover that and screen that is a nice addition.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else that anybody wishes to add on the applicant's team?
Well, I'm looking at the drawings. If they could provide a drawing that would show the section of the buildings that's being raised and going up on pilings and stuff like that, that I'd find that beneficial.
Are people feeling, there's an awful lot going on this site. Are people feeling the need for a site visit? Would that be helpful? Peter, you're nodding yes?
Yeah, that would be helpful. Maybe a site visit with the architect or somebody to sort of explain what work is going to be done where and everything.
How does everybody else feel about that? Dave?
Bradwell feels that way also.
Okay. Anybody else?
Linda, same.
Dave, you're muted. Looks like you're trying to talk.
I could limp over there.
What was that?
I could limp over there. Limp.
Okay. All right.
Dave and I will be there to assist each other in this major project.
Bill?
Yeah, the only concern we are is there's a lot of commissioners that are gonna have that are requesting to go, so we're not gonna be able to have conversations while we're there.
Right. Right.
And like I said, I'm just at this point more interested in seeing the modified plans of what's gonna go up on pilings and the buildings that are being changed, the prints that are supporting all of that.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, why don't we see if we can arrange a site visit then? And if there is a quorum of commissioners, there simply can't be any discussion of the project on site. Chuck, you good with that?
Yeah, I can work with the applicants to schedule a site visit. I also wanted to mention, it looked like there was a couple hands from the public that came up after the public comment period was closed. If you had additional comments, this project will need to be continued, so you're welcome to come to the next meeting and make comments at that time.
Yes, I think it's pretty clear that we'll need to continue this. Do you folks think you can get done what you need to get done for a continuation on October 18th? This would include, by the way, a planting plan?
Sure, absolutely. You know, for us, with winter coming, time is of the essence, so we're happy to do anything and everything you need us to do to move along.
Okay, and I think although there can't be any discussion of the project at the site visit, we can provide feedback to the agent who can then let you know of any concerns that we were not able to bring up at that time.
Okay, and we're happy to pass along to the agent the elevations to give you a better idea of the portion of the building that the floor area needs to come up to give you a lateral look at it as opposed to aerial.
Okay, all right, thank you. We appreciate that. All right, then Linda, do you want to move toward a continuation?
Yep, Charpentier moves to continue NOI 0282958 1 Salt Island Road to the commission meeting of October 18th.
Are you muted?
Commissioner Cook, seconds.
Roll call, member.
Thank you, Bill.
Member Charpentier,
Yes,
member Cook,
Yes,
member Gradwell, member Sargent,
Yes.
member Viteri,
Yes.
member Jackson.
Yes. All right. We will see you on the 18th. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you very much.
You too. Okay, we have one tabled application back on 29 Poplar Street, RDA 1792. Did Mr. Wynot ever appear?
It does not look like it.
Okay, why don't we continue that to the 18th?
okay, Charpentier moves, Charpentier moves to continue RDA 1792 at 29 Poplar Street to the commission meeting of October 18th.
Gradwell, second.
We'll call member Charpentier,
Yes,
Cook,
yes,
member Gradwell,
Yes,
member Sargent,
Yes.
member Viteri,
Yes.
member Jackson.
Yes. Okay, next up, we have certificates of compliance. RCOC 0282894 at 158 Wheeler Street, RCOC 0282885 at 16 Juniper Lane, RCOC 0282826 at 49 Two Penny Lane, and RCOC 0282747 at 32 Riverside Road. Chuck, your input?
I visited all 4 of these sites and they all look to be in good condition and in compliance. So.
Okay, go for it, Linda.
yeah, can we take them all at once? Or-
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay, Charpentier moves to approve RCOC 0282894 at 158 Wheeler Street, 0282885 at 16 Juniper Lane, 0282826 at 49 Two Penny Lane, and 0282747 at 32 Riverside Road.
and Gradwell, seconds.
Call member Charpentier,
Yes,
member Cook,
yes,
member Gradwell,
Yes,
member Sargent,
Yes.
member Viteri,
Yes.
member Jackson.
Yes. Okay, next up, we have violation enforcement order for RDA 1767 at Atlantic Street water line.
Yes, and just to refresh the commissioners' memories on this, at the last meeting, we were still waiting for the submittal of some documents and the SWIP, as well as the analysis of the stormwater crossing. Those have been provided, and I put those in the file. We do have Will Shkuda as the representative. I don't know if you want to bring Will onto the call.
Yes, good evening. Will Scooter from the Moore and Cameron Group here, representing the Procopio companies for the RDA 1767 enforcement order. As you guys are aware, this project involved the water main installation along Atlantic Road. And during the installation, there was a culvert that partially collapsed, and the contractor went ahead and installed new sections of the culvert. Culvert replacement was not anticipated as part of this project, but obviously with the collapsed culvert, it needed to be replaced kind of as an immediate action. The culvert was replaced with 2 box culverts about 3 by 3, and they connect to the existing dry laid stone culvert. Evidence was out there that obviously at some point in time, the outlet where the pipes collapsed was replaced at one point. There was 24-inch RCP pipes that were installed on the outlet side, whereas the rest of the culvert was a dry laid stone. We provided kind of a summary analysis kind of the stream standard crossing standards, kind of discussing how it's not compliant, wasn't compliant, and the installed culvert actually improved it slightly. It seems to be functioning. We were engaged at the time of the enforcement order, and since then there was remediation to install some additional erosion controls and to stabilize the whole area. So that has all occurred. We've been weekly monitoring. This is part of our SWIP inspections for the project down the street. We've formally modified that SWIP to include this work, but we have been out there weekly kind of making sure that no additional issues are occurring. I'll open it up to you guys for any other questions. I'm not sure if you had a chance to review the letter, but I can go through that if you'd like.
Okay, I think what we'll do is I'm going to assume people had seen the letter, and if not, we'll find out. So we're going to go through commissioner comments first, and if you could kind of take note of them and then answer them all at once, I would appreciate it. Chuck, do you want to do commissioner comments?
Yeah, Member Secretary.
No comments.
Member Cook.
No comments.
Member Gredwell.
No comment.
Member Sargent.
Yes, to recap, the applicants were cautioned about the sensitivity of replacing the water line over this perennial stream. It was spelled out within the order of conditions, which the applicant seemingly didn't heed. When a portion of the existing dry laid stone covered collapsed, it was partially replaced with what was on hand as a stopgap measure. As the applicant admits, this temporary Band-Aid is not in compliance with DEP stream crossing standards. It's important to note that the entire length of the stream crossing is tidally influenced, and this newly installed opening is larger than the existing dry laid stone culvert. As a result, there's a tidal restriction. When inflowing tides come to contact with a smaller opening of the existing dry laid stone culvert, this creates an unacceptable situation where the overhead roadbed will likely be scoured and then compromised. To prevent further failure of the culvert and collapse of the roadbed, the applicant should replace the entire culvert to comply with DEP stream crossing standards. And I'd like to hear from the Shellfish Department if there were any downstream impacts. Thank you.
Member Materi.
No comments.
Member Jackson.
No, I agree with Mr. Sargent. What about you, Chuck? Do you have comments on this?
Unfortunately, we don't have anybody from the Shellfish Department here tonight, but they definitely had many concerns about the work and the resulting sediment plume that was released from this work. I can certainly try to get them on for the next meeting. There's also, you know, the condition of the bank there. We still have a lot of gravel that is falling out of that bank and into the waterway. Took this picture this morning. You can see, you know, it's a really unstable bank, pretty much composed of loose gravel. And, you know, it's regularly falling out and into the resource area. I don't know how long that bank will last, and you know, we certainly can't have continued you know, deposit of material into the stream channel there. Yeah. In addition to sharing Mr. Sargent's concerns, those are some additional issues.
Yeah, because I mean, I agree with what Dave says. I mean, we strongly suggested that they replace the entire culvert as part of this project when it was all dug up, because we were afraid of exactly what was going to happen happening. The fact that they only went in and replaced part of it doesn't mean the integrity, since they dug all the way across where the whole culvert went anyway, that there's no guarantee that the integrity of what they didn't replace hasn't been degraded. So, I mean, I think I would personally like to see them replace the entire rest, or the rest of the culvert, before we allow any work to proceed.
Okay, hang on. Okay, would the applicant like to respond?
Yeah, I just have a couple comments. So, unfortunately, we weren't involved in the original permitting or before all this kind of occurred. So I don't have a straight background on the actual permitting process and what was discussed. So I apologize for that. But just for clarification for Mr. Sargent, the culvert that is currently got replaced is actually the inlet or the outlet side of the stream, which would be the inlet side of the tidally influent. So that actually enlarged. So just wanted to clarify that the side that was replaced is actually the tidally influent side versus the stream channel inlet. So hopefully that helps.
Well,
and
your letter stated that this culvert is tidally influenced, and I have seen the tide going in through there every time that Long Wharf, for example, gets covered with water, which is fairly frequent on a monthly basis. That culvert also allows tidal influence coming in. So at that point, it's not the outlet.
Correct. Yes, and I guess I just wanted to clarify that the culvert that was replaced was slightly larger, so that's actually gonna. But I understand. I understand what you're saying. With regards to some of the stone, we can definitely work and propose something that will be more stabilized on the banking to keep the gravel kind of in place and kind of harden that so that erosion is eliminated permanently. And then I think I'll just have to discuss with the client. I think if Kevin Procopio is on the line from Procopio Companies, he might have a couple comments that he wanted to add in as well. So I will hand that over if he is available.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
We can. Name and address for the record, please.
Kevin Procopio, 1 Ironworks Way, Saugus, Massachusetts.
Okay. And what would you like to say, sir?
Yes. As far as replacing the entire culvert, we would have to take a look and see what would be involved at some kind of a design that would propose to do that without impacting the area any more than it already has been impacted. That certainly was not in the scope of work when we proposed it, and DPW, I suppose, should have maybe alerted us to the fact that this was a potential I don't know. I wasn't involved in the original planning of this section of the water main design. It was our abutting neighbor that had started the design work on it, so we weren't involved at all in the design of that whole thing, or we may have been able to address it right from the get-go. Certainly isn't in the scope of our work, but we can look at what would be involved. It would need to comply with the current regulations, I would assume. The size of that culvert.
Indeed.
And from what I understand, that could potentially require raising the whole elevation of the roadway there to fit in the size of culvert that would be necessary to make that comply because of the elevation of the stream bed that's there and the elevation of the surface of the road. So that whole intersection would likely have to be readjusted in order to make that come into compliance. So that's my understanding of it. And if that needs to happen, we would have to look at it and see what kind of a project are we looking at to deal with it. Our intent was to try to get the water main and the disturbed area there all sewed up before the winter, and I'm not sure if that's going to be able to happen at this point or no. We certainly are not impacting anything further at this point, apart from what Chuck is mentioning, the areas that he sees the gravel that he showed us the pictures of. We could address that, but as far as moving forward with the water main, I mean, we would love to be able to move forward with it and close the loop on that public water main that would tie into water main before winter comes.
Okay. Go ahead.
If it requires further hearings and meetings, we could carry on with that concurrently. I mean, I'd love to see the commission work with us on trying to get this done in a way that least impacts the community for the least amount of time.
And I think we would agree with that. Okay, so you have some homework here. I think we're going to have to continue and have you back on the next meeting on October 18th. You need to look at what would be involved in replacing the culvert and in stabilizing the bank.
Can I just jump in for one last thing? So we did look at kind of the stream crossing standards handbook, and in the handbook it does state that, you know, if feasible, a culvert should be replaced, and that the big thing is if it's feasible. For a project like this, the issue is the elevation. There's not a lot of elevation, so if you made a fully compliant crossing for the openness ratio, it would have to be approximately 14 feet wide to maintain the integrity of the road elevation without changing all the drainage. So installing a fully compliant culvert doesn't seem feasible in this location. Some of the other issues with openness ratio of having a 14-foot wide culvert is that the stream channel itself is only about 4 feet wide. So you would actually have large impacts to the resource areas that are around it to expand and basically hog out those banks to allow the stream channel to increase from that 4 to 5 foot width to about 14 feet. And the other issue with that is that work would actually be occurring on private property, because I think it's Sleepy Hollow Pond that feeds this stream channel is actually on a private parcel, not a town-owned or open land. So just from a standpoint of a feasibility, a fully compliant culvert crossing under the standards doesn't really seem like it would be achievable in this location.
I'd like to respond to that. This area has been looked at for replacement, and it was recommended that an open bottom box culvert could be installed, and it was nowhere near 14 feet in width. And this commission has approved projects where there are open bottom box culverts that are nowhere near you know, that width. Perhaps you can go back and research that in greater detail.
Yeah, no, I completely get it, but the reason that I'm saying the width would have to be 14 feet is because to meet that openness ratio, you need a certain square footage. And this project is actually, it's limited by the elevation of the roadway. So that limit of the height that you can make the culvert is why the reason that that culvert actually has to get a lot wider to maintain that 0.82 openness ratio.
And let me just say, I disagree with you, and it's been studied previously.
Okay.
Why don't you go back, see what you can do? Meanwhile, talk with the agency if there's something that can be done to temporarily at least stabilize that bank. And come back and see us in 2 weeks.
Okay, understand.
Okay, Linda, you want to continue this?
Yes, Charpentier moves to continue the enforcement order for RDA 1767 Atlantic Street Waterline to the commission meeting of October 18th.
And Gradwell seconds.
Roll call, member Charpentier,
Yes,
member Cook,
Yes,
member Gradwell,
Yes,
member Sargent,
Yes,
member Viteri,
Yes.
member Jackson.
Yes. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, is there anything else which needs to come before the meeting?
I think we just need to move to adjourn.
I'm good with that. Do I hear a second?
and Gradwell seconds, and note that it's before 9.
It is.
Thank you, Barry.
It's actually before 6 here in Arizona. Okay.
Roll call,
We need
member
to vote
Charpentier,
on that.
Charpentier, yes.
member Cook,
yes.
member Gradwell,
Yes.
member Sargent,
yes.
member Viteri,
Yes.
and member Jackson.
Yes, and thank you all for your patience and your participation.
Good night, everyone.
Everybody stay safe.
Okay, you too,
Good night.
Barry. Bye-bye. Good night.
Night, everyone.
Good night.